Hello, and welcome to Darklore, a podcast where we explore the creepy, horrific, and unsettling darker side of folklore. I'm David, and I'm a darkly inclined storyteller, folklore enthusiast, and RPG designer.
I'm Tracy, and I'm a folklore researcher, author, and practitioner working to bring folklore into everyday life. Please join us as we get lost down twisting paths of lore, myth, and strange tales of dark magic that can never be fully known.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 1 of Darklore. As you go through this episode, you may hear me and Tracy refer to something else, commonly known as folklore distractions, which is the old name of this podcast. We've rebranded. So if you hear folklore distractions, don't think of folklore distractions, think of Darklore. And why did we rebrand, Tracy?
Well, when we were recording this episode, we had so much fun with it, and we realized that we really enjoyed the darker side of things. So we decided that is what we wanted to do from now on. So we abandoned folklore distractions. We're moving to the dark side. So
We have
please
cookies.
join us. We do have cookies. So please join us, and we won't be anywhere near as distracted. We're going to try and remain laser focused because we love the dark stuff so much.
Yeah, and we've got time limits on this one. But yes. So please join us as we explore the darker side of folklore and
And
not hopefully get distracted.
And you will be able to find Darklore for the time being on the Folkloring feed. So you'll be able to get your episodes there, and we will let you know if we ever decide to make a change about that.
Yeah. So sit back and enjoy some dark fairies.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Folklore Distractions, where we are going to be talking about dark fairies. And we started out, we were just going to be talking about fairies in general, and it was, as I'm sure you know, a massive, massive subject. And so we went, let's narrow it down a little.
Who'd have guessed?
And it appears that y'all like the darker stuff. So we're following that. And we decided on dark fairies, which unsurprisingly is also a massive, massive topic. This could easily be a series. Maybe it will if you guys like it. But we are going to talk a little bit about dark fairies today and see where it takes us and see where we get distracted.
Oh, I've got places to go, people to see, queens to sell my soul to, devils
Hopefully
to dance for.
Hopefully fairy queens.
Yeah, I quite fancy a 7-year feast. Sounds quite nice.
Yes, indeed. And then I could be away from America for 7 years, which might be enough time.
To be fair, I'd like to be away from the entire world for 7 years, not just America.
Well, true. Okay, so I want to start with what is a fairy. I'm sure everybody knows, but just want to go over it in case we've got some newbie listeners that come up. So fairies in general, they're mythical beings, legendary creatures. They generally look like people, although there are some forms that don't look as much like people. Now, they can be a form of a spirit. They might have supernatural qualities. And there are fairies all over the world. So it's like all different cultures have some form of fairy. Now, the origins of fairies might have included demoted angels or even demons in like a Christian tradition, and deities maybe in pagan belief systems. They could have been spirits of the dead, prehistoric precursors to humans. So there's a lot of different beliefs on what the origins of fairies are. And so, generally, if they're known for trickery. They can help if they want to, but those are not the kind of fairies that we're going to be talking about today. Today we're going to be talking about all things dark and all of the terrible things that might happen when you run into the Fae. Um,
Yeah, like those little circles with mushrooms in. They're perfectly fine. Nothing bad's ever happened in a mushroom circle.
unless you disappear into it when you step through.
Depends on what kind
Um,
of mushrooms they are and whether you eat them as well. But that's a different story.
yeah, I really love mushroom circles,
Yeah,
and it's funny because I actually did an episode on fungi, and it's really funny because they tend to grow where um, they're like manicured lawns. Like those
yeah.
conditions are ideal, and so I love that when I go out for a walk and I see them. Although a lot of times my walk that I take is on the pathway that a lot of kids go home from school. So oftentimes I will see them kicked over. So that makes me sad.
Bad kids. You just reminded me that I got through a Kickstarter a couple of I don't know, it must have been about a couple of months ago. Because if anybody knows me, they know that I'm an RPG fan. Hunters Entertainment did an entire book on fungus and well, they call it the mycologist's primer, and so it's a book all about mycology, healers, forests, and magicians, an introduction course to be used within RPGs. So there's lots of fungus and things like that. So I should have probably looked into that. So
Yeah,
we should do that at some point. We should
yeah,
do
definitely. Definitely.
dark plant folklore.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And it's interesting, once I did that episode, I actually joined a couple of different foraging groups, and one of them is specifically foraging mushrooms. And these people are like posting, like, hey, is this delicious mushroom or is it that deadly one that's
Is
gonna
it the one
kill
that's going
me?
to taste nice in the soup, or the one that's going to taste nice and kill me?
Exactly. And I'm like, you people are literally going to random folks on a Facebook group
And
and
trusting
asking
people
them,
on the
yeah,
internet.
and asking them if you're gonna die if you eat that. And
uh,
I'm not, I'm not a big forager. I'm too chicken to do it. I'm always like, yeah, I know exactly what that is, but I'm probably gonna die if I eat it. Um, I
yeah, I
forage a
just
couple of things out of my yard because I've got ferns. So I do fiddleheads in the early spring, and I would forage a puffball mushroom because nothing else looks like that, and you can't really
and if
buy
you
those.
touch it, it explodes, so you know exactly what it is.
Well, if it explodes, then it's too old to eat.
Yeah, you're not going
Um,
to eat it, but you're going to know exactly what it is.
it's true. It's true. But yeah, I mean, nothing else looks like it because they don't have any kind of stem.
Hmm.
And so it grows right on the ground, and they're big and round and white, and like nothing else looks like it. So there you have it. That is the only thing I have the guts to forage if I ever find them, which is rare.
Scrumping apples and pears and blackberries and stuff, but not so much nowadays in England because they all get bloody coated by farmers in horrible stuff.
Mm,
So,
yeah, yeah.
but anyway,
Which
fairies.
I was going to say, which will piss off the fairies if you do
Yes,
that.
yes.
So you don't want to. Now, if you do piss off the fairies, I just want to be upfront. A couple of things you can do to ward off. Um, Church bells will scare the fairies away, dark or light. You can wear your clothes inside out, and you can leave them offerings of delicious food. So those are
Milk and
some things.
honey is usually
Yes.
is the most often ones,
Yes.
if I'm getting things correct.
Yes. Now, fairies also have been blamed historically for sicknesses, particularly tuberculosis and
Mm-hmm.
also birth deformities. So I guess people just really want answers to things, And so if when things happen that they don't understand, they're
Blame
going
the
to find
fairy.
a yeah, exactly. They'll find a folklore reason.
Yeah, as I say, so the birth defects,
Yeah.
is that changelings? So are you considering changelings fairies? Because
Yes, I definitely
this is a question that I'm actually going to ask.
yeah,
We've said that they're kind of all these different things, but
right.
we obviously have this image of what a fairy is in the modern world, and it all kind of stems from those children who admitted that it was all fake, but Sir Arthur Conan Doyle tried to prove that they were real. And
Right.
we will not talk about them. But you've got this image of these young girls, young ladies with wings and popping around and Tinderella, Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell and stuff. And we've got that kind of image of them, but that's not what we're really talking about. So things
Well,
like changelings, brownies, pixies.
right. Yeah, and there's a lot of different ideas about what fairies are, and definitely changelings is one of the things. When you start in my research, when I was looking at some of the older beliefs, there wasn't really much of a difference in
Mm,
the belief of what elves were and what
yeah,
fairies were.
that
And
was going to be because what I've got for some notes for later in there was kind of related to that. I was going to say, like, if we look at the Scottish tales, Scottish border ballads
yeah,
specifically, and things like
yeah,
Tam Lin, they're very much presented like elves that
right.
we'd kind of expect from Lord of the Rings or something, like these
Hmm.
high elf kind of things. But she's queen of the fae, she's queen of the fairies,
Hmm.
and so it's a term to me, and I don't know if this is the same with you. It's a term that is just kind of like the catch-all term for
Right, right.
weird spiritual creatures that do things, either help or
Yeah,
hinder. It's
exactly.
kind
And
of like a
that's kind
big
of
word.
yeah, yeah, that's kind of what I found as well, is that, it not only has it changed over time, it has lots of different possible meanings,
Mm.
as a word. And I think that that's important to note, that it's not just like the cute little, little itty bitty creatures who flit around and like are doing sweet little
Bippity
things.
boppity
And
boo.
yeah. Although I don't know how anyone thinks that fairies are like cute, sweet little creatures, because me personally, I consider, well, obviously it's in the name, the tooth fairy, right? So like,
How is that not nightmare fuel?
exactly, exactly, like running around, coming like in while you're sleeping and stealing your cast off mouth bones that
Yeah.
like that is horrible.
There is a
And
movie. If I remember, I've not. I don't think I've seen it.
mm,
If I have, it was a very long time ago. There is a Tooth Fairy horror movie, which is all about the Tooth Fairy's castle and where all the teeth go and what they do with it.
well, I know that there's a Christmas movie, believe it or not, that I think it's called The Hogfather. I don't remember if
The
that's the
Terry
exact
Pratchett
title.
movie.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
that's a horrifying tooth fairy in that movie.
God, yeah. Terry Pratchett really understands everything about folklore. He's insanely good at it. Um, God rest
Yeah,
his
but
soul and all that. But yeah, the Terry Pratchett is very, very good at seeing folklore and reading into it and actually understanding it
mhm,
within a modern context as well. And maybe
right.
we can do that more in another episode because that's a whole thing. His whole vampires, his dwarves, his werewolves, everything that he brings in, they are all built within reality.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, but anyway,
Yeah, but
yeah,
I had not heard of just a horror tooth fairy movie, so I'm gonna have to try and track that down.
I will send it you. And I probably after this, I'll probably try and find it myself and watch it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's probably
Sounds
like a mid
amazing.
'90s teen
Yeah.
horror piece of crap, but
Which, there's a place for that, right?
yeah, the '90s.
Just leave it back there in the 90s.
To be fair, I'm still of the opinion that The Matrix had it right that 1999 was the peak year of humanity. After that,
Mm,
everything went wrong.
it could be.
Well, everything started going wrong at about 2001 with a certain date. But we'll leave that for other conversations, and we'll carry on with fairies.
Well, 2001 is also the year that I got divorced. So some things did go right that year for me.
I'm talking on, yes, maybe for individual people it started going well, but for the world, there's a certain event that happened in 2001 that kind of fucked everything up.
Indeed, I remember
Yeah,
it well.
yes.
Okay, so
Right. Anyway,
the dark fairies. I did find some of the ways that they might punish you should you annoy them or in some way offend them, or if they're dark fairies, just for the fun of it.
I was going to
Um,
say, like, I don't think some of them you even need to bother offending. They'll just do it for the hell of it.
no, you definitely don't, because that's sort of just what they do
Yeah,
for kicks,
yeah.
really.
They're like
So things.
teenagers.
So they might take away your good fortune, right? So suddenly you're unlucky at all things. So that's bad. They also might take away your second sight. So if you can see the fairies, they might say, "Oh no, we don't think so," right?
Yep.
Now, in sort of ramping things up, there was a belief that strains, sprains, and stiffness were related to fairies. And there was a medieval writer, Hereford Friar John of Bromyard, and he wrote down a charm for healing sprains, and he called sprains the bite of elves. So, again, we're talking,
Yeah.
that was back when elves and fairies were the same thing.
I was going to say
So,
that sounds very 15th century, but also that bite of elf sounds very familiar for some reason. I don't know why. I'll come back to
yeah, I
that.
mean, I've definitely heard elf shot.
Yeah, elf shot, which you cure by throwing iron nails into a wood.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And then finally, they might go ahead and cripple you. They might lame you. They might give you some other disability. And it was believed that they would do that by like striking a limb. And so that might be temporary and it might be curable, but it might also just be permanent. So that was kind
yeah,
of a belief of what the fairies might do to you.
yeah.
So take
So
care.
yeah, if you're North English, um, heading up to kind of like Yorkshire, Lancashire areas, the brownies, if you piss them off, they'd sour your milk and
Mm.
stop tidying your house. They're a weird one, they are, because like they don't want thanks, and as soon as you give them thanks, they get upset.
Yeah, that's very weird to me. I wonder why, like why is that insulting to them? I don't get
I
it.
assume it's a moralistic story of being humble, is where I'm thinking. So like the idea of not looking for the praise for what you're doing, but doing it
Hmm.
because it's the right thing to do.
Oh, okay.
If
So,
I'm kind of like coming at it from the how do the stories evolve and become what they are
hmm
rather than the
hmm
belief section, that's kind of what I would take it as. But I've not, and to all the listeners, I've been moving country, as everybody probably knows over the last couple of weeks. I've not done much research on this specifically. I did when I was back at my parents find my book. I've got a book on fairy and elf magic, Irish
hmm
fairy and elf magic, and I do remember reading it. I got it when I was in Japan, weirdly.
I'm
Of
glad
all
that you
places in
said.
the world to find a book on Irish elf and fairy magic in Japan.
I'm actually glad you said that because I did want to mention a couple of the books that I used.
Yep.
I've got a few different books on fairies, not as
You can
many
send
as.
me as well, like so we can read them out now, but send me them and I'll put them in the show notes as well so people can go and have a look.
Okay, now I did start with How to See Fairies, which is Brian Froud book. Um,
Brian
and
Froud.
I know, it had absolutely no relevant information in it. But
But
what I
you don't
did,
need to when it's Brian Froud because it's just
I know.
beautiful.
Well, and the other thing is, it's a
Oh, it's a
pop-up
pop-up
book.
book.
Yeah, and I
Wow.
just like I know I delight in pop-up books so much. I had forgotten, but it's a fun book. I just so much fun. So that's where I started, but no relevant information. Then I moved on to a book called Fantastic People, and this is probably and it's by Alan Scott and Michael Scott Rohan. And this is more than likely the first occult type book I ever bought myself. I think the only thing folklore related that I might have had earlier than that was a book about Greek myths that I'm sure my parents gave me. But yeah, it was very weird. My mom was English and Scottish, but my dad was Greek. And so when my parents got married, for whatever reason, she became obsessed with Greek culture. we had stuff all over the house that was, like Greek art and
Yeah.
urns, and oh my God. So, but anyway, so this book was first published in America in 1980. And that's probably, I probably bought it immediately after being published because if I recall, I think I started liking boys in about 82, and then I would not have bought that kind of thing for myself after that because,
But no, I can't spend money on really nice, fun things. I've got to look nice for the boys. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Oh my God.
Oh, as I
I
say,
am,
teenagers.
yeah. And then I used a book written by John Cruz called Fairy. Got some really, it's a great book. It's great history. It's mostly British, but
That's the thing.
it's
Like when you, because you've already said that like fairies exist across the world, but when you
mhm,
specifically look for things, because it's an English term,
mhm,
you tend to end up most with the most common English brand names of them. So, and because we said as it's a catch-all kind of name for everything, it is quite hard to
right,
kind of find the fae of other countries if you're just doing a quick Google search without
right,
knowing how to do it. You need
right.
your Google food. Google food.
And here's something interesting. In Wales, elf food is the popular name for poisonous toadstools. So there's another link to the mushrooms. Okay, and so then the very last one that uh, I used is a book called Magical Folk. And specifically, there was a section that is the Seelie and Unseelie courts. And that was focused on Scotland, and it was
Yep.
Siri Holbrook.
Yep.
And so, yeah, so I just wanted to be sure that I was crediting the
Yep, and we
folks
can
that
put
I
all the
was,
links, all the names and authors in the show notes so people can remember
yeah,
them.
yeah.
But you bring up an interesting point here. The Seelie Court, the Seelie and
Hmm.
Unseelie courts. We
Hmm.
can dive into them later, but a lot of people seem to think they're Celt Irish because
Huh.
people are stupid. Um, Now, it is a common misconception because it's used quite commonly in fantasy writing and applied to a Celtic setting. The Celtic settings tend to be more Irish leaning. Um, but the Seelie and Unseelie are purely Scotland. They're
Hmm.
only Scottish. So the
Yeah,
more you know.
that's
Anyway,
yeah. And I did find that when I was, doing my research, and there was this very interesting comparison, basically saying the great battle of the Seelie and Unseelie court was sort of about what was going to happen with the humans, right? And so, and I didn't know much about the great battle,
we
but
should have Tom here, but we can't have Tom.
yeah.
This is Tom's thing.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
we'll have to
So
we'll
if
have
we
to
get
talk
this
to them.
wrong, Tom is going to hurt us.
Uh-oh, now I'm scared. Um, but the comparison that was made to the United States Civil War, right? And saying like there was the light and the dark fighting over, in that case, it would have been the slaves, right?
Yeah.
And so the humans would be, compared to the slaves, and that the light side won, but just barely.
Mm.
So I thought that was a wild comparison
That is
to
a
to
very
make.
wild comparison because it's usually attributed to the swinging of the seasons.
Mm-hmm,
Like the
mm-hmm,
Seelie are the spring and summer, and then the Unseelie are autumn and winter.
mm. Yeah, that
So
definitely makes a lot of sense.
yeah, but there's also, and I think this is something that we should bring up because it's again a modern misconception. It also ties into another group, which is very similar to the Seelie and Unseelie, which is the Elfir of the Norse mythologies. So you've
Mm-hmm.
got the Svartalfir and the the light elves. I can't remember how you pronounce it. So there's kind of three really, but you've got the light elves and the Svartalfir, which is the black elves. These are
Mm-hmm.
the two real specific elves in there, and they are seen as the happy side and the dark side, or the
Okay.
black side.
There's also the Dokelfir, which are the dark elves, but they might be
Okay.
dwarves and they might be a Christian invention.
Ah.
Um, but yeah, so the light elves and the black elves are very very similar in the root ideas, the Seelie and the Unseelie, of like the Seelie are the good, happy, bright, joyful ideas of summer, and so you get
Mhm.
the light elves, and then the
Right.
dark elves, or the black elves as they're technically called, are the winter months and the more broody and the more depressive and dark side of human nature. And it's the
Right.
same
Right.
thing with the Unseelie. Like the Unseelie aren't inherently bad, and so this is where the Christian influence comes in. Is the good? It's the purity of the good versus evil, and so therefore, light elves or the Seelie are the good. The dark elves, the black elves, and the Unseelie are the bad. And so there's this always a fight between them because of the good versus evil nature of Christianity. But that's not what happens in paganism and traditional paganism. There's no good versus like clear cut good versus evil.
Right.
It's trying to find the balance between them, and that's what the courts are doing. But yeah, so I think that's, to me, that's something quite important to kind of get across, is the dark elves and the dark fae are not generally seen as an evil force in like a lot of the old sources. They're seen as a balance against the good forces to keep the
Hmm.
world in balance.
Hmm. Well, I think that, with any kind of darker folklore, it's, a lot of that is morality tale stuff.
Yeah,
Like, be good, or these bad things are coming for you, if whether they're creatures, whether it's bad luck, whether, it's being injured, whatever it is, it's like you gotta, you can't say fairies, you've got to say the good folk, you've got to, there's all these rules around staying, not stepping out of line, basically.
yeah,
And so I think that it's, and of course that is a lot of Christianity. A lot of those stories are
yeah,
about how you're supposed to behave. So, but yeah, I agree with you completely.
yeah,
It's just, it's more about balance than it is about, binary right, wrong, good,
mm.
bad kind of thing. And I think that's one of the interesting parts about fairies.
Yeah. It's one of the good things, like that we've got sources from other cultures,
Yeah.
because European history is so dominated by the influence of Christianity. So we do still have a lot of pagan sources, but they are tend to be Roman or Greek
Hmm. Hmm.
sources. A lot of the Germanic and the Norse and especially the English sources don't really exist. A lot
Hmm.
of the
Hmm.
stuff that we have for the Norse mythologies come from Snorri Sigurd. I can't remember his last name. I'm forgetting everybody's name, but he was a monk in Iceland, and
Okay.
he was writing it. He was writing down oral traditions. So a
Oh,
lot of it is just kind of Christian people writing stuff down, so we don't know how true it really is.
right. Yeah, and
Um,
I mean, that's the issue, that's the double-edged sword of, recording folklore, is that it's always going to be from the perspective of the person that is recording it, and it's just,
from the
you
perspective
know,
of the winners,
right,
history is
right,
always written by the winners.
right.
But
And I
anyway,
think
yeah,
So, okay,
no,
so a
cool.
couple of very specific fairies that I had not heard of before, and I thought that these were interesting. The first kind of specific things about fairies is they're called thieves of inclination. And what that means is they are going to take anything that has been lost, destroyed, discarded, or rejected by humans, which I think was really interesting, that, they were considered thieves, except for the fact that it's something that the humans either threw away or they got rid of. Um,
Yeah, so
and yeah,
the thing that automatically comes to my mind is Dobby the house elf for some reason,
well, most
and
of the
missing
things,
socks.
yeah, well, most of the things that were taken was actually food, but they would take, it was considered that they would take some kitchen items. In particular, hand mills were vulnerable. And so what you do about that, if you've got, a hand mill that you're using, you have to turn the grindstone sunwise when using it. So that's the way that you protect.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Now in
On
the
the kitchen thing,
Highlands,
we
yeah,
were
yeah.
talking about Terry Pratchett. Terry Pratchett has a goddess of missing things from the kitchen called Anoia.
That's fantastic.
And
Um,
it's usually the wee free men, so little elves who have probably half-inched it because they find it funny. You
that's
should read some Terry
hilarious.
Pratchett; it's amazing. Anyway,
Now, okay, so in the Highlands, if your cow happens to fall off of a cliff, right? The only way to keep the fairies from taking it, and you said something about this earlier, so I think this is hilarious, was to get to the cow as quick as you can and put a nail in it. Presumably an iron nail,
yeah,
since.
I would guess it'd be iron. So throughout folklore, you'll see, even not just for fairies, but for other things, for curses and stuff,
Mhm,
iron
mhm.
is a very powerful uh, material,
Deterrent.
deterrent, just poor material. And I guess it's because it comes from when it was originally found. Before we had big smeltery stuff and we have ironworks and things, it would become from meteorites, and so people would see the
Ah,
rocks fall from the sky. Therefore, it was seen as a heavenly important thing that could be used as protection. That's my guess. I could be
hmm.
very, very, very wrong on that, um, but one of the ways in Ireland, if you have been put under the elf shot or cursed by an elf, is you go to a wood where you think the elves live, and you shoot a nail into the woods. The idea is like a bow and arrow, and you tie a nail to it or something. But the phrase was shoot an arrow into the woods. But I just imagine people just lobbing house nails.
Yeah,
It's
I
also
was
why the horseshoe is
imagining.
quite important, because it's made out of iron usually. But
Right. Yeah, I was imagining like a slingshot. You just go up to the edge of the woods with your little slingshot and
oh, look, I got lunch as well.
Oh, now that brings up a question. If you did manage to take down like a bird or a rabbit with it, like does that negate, like if you take that animal with you, does that negate the effectiveness of the nail? Do you have to like I assume you have to
I
leave the
would
nail.
not want to touch it. I'd be like, oh shit. I've probably pissed it off even worse now. It's like, you can have that as a sacrifice. That's yours now. I did it for you. It wasn't a mistake at all. No.
Yeah, particularly if it's a crow, because man, those birds remember and they will come for you.
And especially for you in Ireland, a crow or a raven in Ireland, and you've killed that, you've got the Morrigan after you. And I'm like, fuck that shit.
Yep, don't want that. No, no, thank you.
Nope,
No,
nope.
thank you.
She's nice. We like her. We're going to be nice to her.
Okay, so I think that we should talk about vampire fairies.
I think we
And
definitely should talk about vampire fairies.
there's a bunch of different kinds of fairies. So in one way, they are seen as they have the ability to suck the life force out of people. So
Again,
that would be
teenagers.
more of
My conclusion of this episode is all fairies are teenagers.
Yeah, I came to the conclusion a long time ago that everything in nature is a jerk. Um, it's like
Yeah.
like plants are jerks because they come and try and take over when if you've planted something, and birds are jerks because like you hear them, they're out there, they're singing lovely little bird song. No, they're screaming. They're just
And,
like,
and then it shits on you.
yeah, exactly.
And like
So,
before we started recording this episode, you saw me running around my apartment trying to catch this fuck off huge hornet. Like it wasn't going to hurt me, but it was just flying right next to my head and just being an asshole. Like the window
yep,
was open and it was just ignoring me.
yep,
No, fuck
yep.
you, I'm going to be an asshole. Like, get out the
um,
window. Anyway,
and I will say that was particularly entertaining because as you were moving around, you would disappear against your background. But then when you'd stop, like at one point you were standing on a chair trying to get it off the ceiling,
yep.
and it would just it
You could just
looked
see my
like you
fat
were
belly.
it looked like you were like voguing, right? So I'm sorry for our listeners that y'all missed that because it was
I'm not.
wildly, wildly entertaining. Oh, but it
Oh,
wasn't recorded, so
no, it
lost,
wasn't. I had
lost
not
forever.
hit record at that point, so I'm good at that. I'm glad of that. But I must say, it was probably one of the biggest hornets I've seen. It was absolutely massive.
Yeah, you were trying to explain that to me when I didn't have my sound issues figured out, and all I could see was just you like making. It was like, did you catch a big fish? What is happening? Like, what is that? Like a tall tale? But I didn't know what you were saying. So, but eventually I was like, I guess that was a really big bee. Okay, so um, there is also a belief that fairies, a vampire fairy, may suck a person's breath, and that's called fairy kissed. And you see it, there's a Rudyard Kipling story that is actually called Fairy Kissed.
Yeah.
And in it, there's a man who was badly wounded and also gassed in World War One. And he had like PTSD. And so the idea behind being fairy kissed is like if someone used to be, sane, fairly normal, whatever, and suddenly they start acting very weird and off and something like that, then they say, oh, he was fairy kissed, right? And that's again an explanation for why something like that would have changed. All of a sudden, their girlfriends showed up and they were like, right on, I'm gonna get a little something something tonight, right? So all of
Ask and
the
ye shall receive.
so three of the men, they were getting busy with their girlfriends, but there was one
I like
who
how none of them are questioning how their girlfriends have just turned up into the middle of fucking nowhere.
exactly. Although, I've known a lot of straight men in my life, and yeah, I could see most of them do being like, I don't even care at this point. Don't even care if it's a
Yeah,
fairy. Okay,
yeah.
so they're getting busy, and but there was one who was suspicious, and he was like, nah. Um, so
He had the
he
one brain cell between the group.
exactly. I mean, maybe his girlfriend was a little more high maintenance, and he was like, no, there's no way she would be coming out.
Yeah, she ain't putting on fucking shoes at late at night coming out here.
Exactly. So he holds off his girlfriend, what he believes to be his girlfriend, with a knife, and also, weirdly, by playing the mouth harp. Don't know why that would hold her off. Now, in the morning, the four women disappeared, right? And the three men who had lain with their quote unquote girlfriends, they had their throats cut and they were completely drained dry of blood. So yeah, and part of the belief in Scotland and on the Isle of Man is they leave water out for the fairies. So if the fairies do get thirsty, they're not going to go and drink your blood. So
To me, that just sounds like a guy who's trying to cover up a murder of his friends.
could be. That's a
But
lot
also,
of
it's a
work
great
to.
story. It's a great
Yeah.
story. But yeah, no, it wasn't me. I didn't kill him. No. Ignore the blood on my hands, mate. Yeah, no, it's a bloody fairies. Bloody fairies. They came down and they drank us dry. I was the
Yeah.
only one smart enough not to be fooled by them. Like my girlfriend, she ain't never going to come out of her fucking house late at night.
And when he gets back home,
I don't
he's
know
like,
why they've gone
yeah.
Cockney, even though they're Scottish.
And when he gets home, he's like, honey, I knew. I could tell the difference that it wasn't you.
Yeah. I would never sleep with anybody who's not you. Honest,
Yeah.
governor. Wait,
You
what?
did go really Cockney on that. I don't know where
I don't
that's
know
coming
why
from.
I'm going. I don't know. I'm going to
Okay,
do a
and
Yorkshire accent soon. That's
all
gonna be
right.
fun. Anyway,
I'm gonna maybe I'll try a Uber accent soon. Hater, how's it going?
what's going? I'm running a game on Thursday, and I've decided to stupidly set it in the dark moors of Yorkshire.
Mm.
I'm like, oh, I've got to do a Yorkshire accent. I'm not going to. Everyone's going to be from London. London.
There you go. Okay, so final way of identifying a vampire fairy, they can possess you, right? So apparently there are some fairies that will possess a person, and in doing so, they sort of drain that person's life force. And so again, another, energy vampire. So I thought that was interesting that like I had never really heard of vampire fairies before, but
No, it's
it
not something
was
I've heard of
yeah.
before.
Now another very specific uh, fairy that is debatable, and maybe we will debate it, Pandora. And
Mm,
yeah, I
okay.
know. It's definitely controversial. It might. Obviously, that wasn't, the original Greek lore, but I
Mm.
did see a bunch of different references to, the like Pandora basically using men's own weaknesses against them. And so that was, sort
So
of
she was a
one of,
succubus.
yeah, that would be. But I mean, I think it's interesting because obviously she opens the box and
Mm.
releases all of these different dark things that, like then go and attach themselves to man.
Mm.
And so I don't know, it's just a very interesting way to look at Pandora, but obviously not, her weakness was used against her by
Yeah,
opening the box and her curiosity. So
never heard the tale of curiosity killed the cat then, had she? But yeah,
apparently not.
talking about the Greeks, there's obviously a lot of fairies within the Greek mythology of things like the nymphs,
Hmm.
are quite clearly fey-like creatures,
Right.
and the is it the sylphs?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of these kind of like river spirits and things as well, are all very fairy-like.
Yeah.
They're not generally that evil, but Pandora, I suppose you could consider. I suppose she didn't do it on purpose. She was tricked into releasing and opening the box, so
Hmm.
don't know whether you could consider it evil or dark. Maybe a bit pissed off, but
Yeah, I mean, I think that I guess that maybe gets us to a conversation a little bit more on what do we consider dark fairies?
mm,
Because, I mean, yeah, she wasn't evil, but she was weak, right? And so, where, like, what does that darkness mean? It doesn't necessarily mean ill intent, as we talked about
yeah,
earlier. I mean, it just might mean bad
opposite.
things happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I've heard a lot that, there's nothing wrong with fairies, even the ones that are, attacking or doing bad things to people. They just have a different kind of
view.
morality.
Yeah, different view on the world, different
Mhm.
nature.
Yeah, and different rules that they live by, different
Hmm.
morality that they live by.
Yeah, it's
So,
definitely something like when you look at a lot of the mythologies, European mythologies, the Tuatha De Danann of Ireland, and the Seelie courts of Scotland, and the Norse mythologies of Scandinavia, there is definitely a difference in the morality of how certain creatures behave. Like
mm,
the gods' tales in Norse mythology are clearly moralistic tales of how you should live your life, and
hmm
even a lot of the sources admit that. But then you've got things like the Nisse and the Woodwife and things like that, which are more similar to some of the Scottish and Irish tales,
hmm hmm
where they are mischievous little creatures who don't see anything wrong in what they do and they enjoy it, but it's not bad.
Uh-huh.
So kind of like little tricks. So again, we'll go back to references of Terry Pratchett because it's something that I know. I know probably many of our listeners will understand. The wee free men, who are little mad Scottish gnomes, basically. Just imagine your stereotypical Scot, um, wearing a kilt, painted blue face, big red ginger hair, but about 2 inches tall.
Hmm.
And they would run around. They run around stealing sheep because they find it funny. But they're also incredibly helpful if you understand. So Tiffany Aiken is the character that they get to know, who is a very interesting. I would recommend reading some of the Witches trilogies, Witches books of Terry Pratchett. They are very eye opening, especially the later ones. Yeah, but I would definitely read The We Free Men. Read that book. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. Little Scottish people running around stealing sheep and
Yeah.
spoons
Yeah, I think
from a hedge witch.
I was holding pretty steady for a very, very long time at 38 books in my to be read pile. But
Weak sauce.
I know. Now it's gotta be. I've got to have at least 50.
And now I've just told you to read Terry Pratchett, which adds another 50 on top of it.
Yeah, and plus I'm researching for a new book that can't be discussed yet. So yeah, so I've got all of that. And I've started doing book reviews through my Folkloring Life website. So that's
because you just don't like free time. That's your problem.
It's true. It's true. I also apparently don't like cooking anymore because I never have time for that.
I was meant to cook this evening. I was going to cook myself a nice Indian dal, and then realized that I needed to do other things. I'm like, okay, I'll just make a sandwich then. Oh well.
Yeah,
I'll do it tomorrow.
I made homemade pizza from scratch on Friday night, and yeah, I'm eating cold leftovers of that right now because I didn't have time to have lunch today.
I'm sorry.
So,
I'm sorry. We're now
okay.
we're in more difficult time zones.
I know and I did not realize that I was thinking you were 6 hours ahead of me,
No,
and I
7.
didn't. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Yeah.
I was
Me.
for about 2 weeks, and then I was 2-3 weeks in England, and then moved to here. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, my time zones are off, and I've gotten so good at calculating like what time it like I always know what time it is in the UK based on whatever time it is here because I've just and when we're
Well,
not in that weird 2 week kind of difference between when we
yeah.
go off of daylight savings and when you guys go off, it's like 6 hours is perfect because it's like if it's 10 here, it's 4 there, and if it's 4 here, it's 10 there, and
It's quite
so
with our 12-hour clock. 6 hours is quite a nice difference.
yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm 7 hours now.
Yeah, which is not handy at all.
But at least here in France, they do move the clocks. They do summertime and winter time. Whereas in Mexico, they didn't. So it's like, oh, when do you change your clock? And then I don't have to. But anyway, we're being distracted again, as always.
It's
I
true.
also can't remember when we started recording, but I think we should be starting to slowly wrap up.
Okay. Well, I did want to just
do one more
springboard off of what you were saying about different kinds of fairies in different places.
I was saying? I said something sensible.
Yeah, you did.
I'm here to be annoying.
Well, I mean, you've achieved that as well. So,
job done.
Yeah. Okay, so what I was going to say was when I first started researching and we just had the massive canopy of fairies, I was going to focus on North American fairies because I thought that's pretty narrow. And so I did find a couple of them. So I decided I was going to focus on North American fairies, and I found some that are definitely useful, helpful, even protectors. And like there is one called the Con-Otia, which is little people of Lakota lore, and they live in trees, and people would go consult with them in magical, matters, right? And then there was the Kurupira, which is a male fairy which guards the forests in Tupi mythology. And there is a fairy called Granny Squannet, and she's a chieftainess. Is that right? Chieftainess of the Wampanoag tradition. And she's sort of like more like a patron saint of those people. And there's a bunch more. I'm not going to give you a whole big laundry list, but it looks like the fairies that Native Americans um, had in their lore, and obviously Native Americans are not a monolith. There were many, many tribes, and there were malevolent fairies like the Pukwudgie, and that was the same, the Wampanoag. Um, but in a different tradition, they were considered like, in the Pukwudgie was benevolent to them, but
Mm.
in another tradition, they were like pretty neutral. So, obviously there are differences depending on what the tribe is. But I
Yeah.
just think it's really interesting that a lot of the fairies here were, traditionally considered helpful, or, and of course we've got house fairies that are, like brownies that they come in,
Yeah.
they clean it. Yeah.
You'll especially down in the southern Appalachian mountains, there'll be a
Mhm.
lot of influence from Europe and Eastern Europe, the Russian influence and stuff. So there'll be a lot of very interesting folklore, I imagine, on fairies down there.
Mhm.
But then it's one thing you find is like it's really hard to define fairies, because I was just thinking like I know I have a book again back in England, because you can't carry all your books whenever you move country. I have a book called Japanese Fairy Tales.
Right.
I think it's called Japanese Fairy Tales. It's either that or Japanese Fairies. Um, and there's a lot of mythic, just millions of mythical creatures in Japan.
Right.
And some of them you can kind of attribute fairy-like attributes to, if you ignore the fact that we're not talking about pretty young girls with wings kind of
Right.
fairies.
Right.
So the general term is yosei,
Yeah.
Y-O with an I line above it, yosei. And these include things like the kitsune fox, the tanuki, which is the raccoon dog with massive testicles.
Sentences that you never thought you would say.
Yeah, and then there's the kappa is can kind of be seen as a little bit of a fairy like creature. But
Mhm.
there's a Hokkaido version of the kappa, which again has big testicles. There's a lot of things in Japan they're obsessed with testicles.
I feel like you just want to say testicles, and so
So it's a nice word to say, testicles.
okay.
Anyway,
I
and
actually
on that,
did.
on the note,
I did an episode a while
on
back on,
testicles.
like, no, it's nothing to do with, well, it's a little bit to do with testicles, I suppose. It was about house fairies, house, supernatural house creatures.
Yep.
And um, the ones from Japan were wild.
Oh my god.
There,
Yes.
yeah, there was one that, oh my God, it is going to be about testicles. Oh no. So there was one that would clean the bathrooms with its tongue,
Yep.
right? And that's, there was also a fairy that if you offended this particular house fairy, it would hide inside the toilet. And
Oh god. Yes. Yes.
when you sat down, it had like a little knife, right? It would
Stab you
poke
in the
you.
ass. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
or the testicles, I assume.
Yeah. There are some messed up Japanese folklore
Very,
creatures.
very messed up.
Yeah.
Okay, now we do have to wrap it up, but before we do, we cannot um, go through Dark Fairies without at least some mention of fairy abductions. Um,
Changelings and the like.
well, yeah, and we talked about changelings earlier. Now, they do abduct both adults and children,
Yes.
and they abduct adults because of their skills, right? They want
Mm.
fiddlers, pipers, nursemaids. Now, midwives and nurses are almost always taken on a temporary basis to do, the specific work that they're going to do, and then they are returned. And as you said earlier, they're stuck for at least 7 years if you go ahead and eat the food, if the fairies eat the
If
fairy
you
food.
enjoy the party.
Yes. And the children that are abducted are said to be mostly boys. And one of the reasons that they want boys is that there's said to be a belief amongst the Fae that boys raised by fairies in the fairy world may grow up to become a champion and help the fairies in victory over humans. And they also take them to be playmates for their children and that sort of thing. So yeah, there's lots of different fairy abductions, and
I think if we're going to talk about the fairy abductions and stuff, we'd probably have to do a full episode on it because it can go places.
Oh yeah, we definitely should do that. Maybe we should just have a fairy series.
Yeah. We come up with a different idea every week. Like, oh, yeah, we'll focus on this, and this is what it will be all about. And then the next episode, no, we're going to do this. And then, no, let's do this. Yay, distractions.
It is because we are so distractible.
Yes. We are like little puppies.
Yes. We managed to stick pretty good on point this time.
Yeah, most of it. I think this was, because this was your episode, it was easier for me to not go too far off topic.
I think it was easier for me because I had actual notes instead of just, getting together.
I've got a load of web pages open somewhere. Right, anyway.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this fairy adventure. We've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot. I did not know about vampire fairies. I'm going to have to look up that one and learn some more about it. So thank you very much for telling us and sharing with us today, Tracy.
Sure. I had a ton of fun researching this one. If you guys do want to hear more about dark fairies or fairies in general, do let us know.
Yep.
If there are other topics that you are interested in hearing us ramble on about, feel free to send us a message, and we definitely look forward to any ideas that you have.
Definitely. And we'll have all of our social medias and places you can contact us in the show notes, because we're unorganized and we only have our own personal social medias, and there's nothing yet connected to this podcast. But you can go to Tracy's wonderful website where I'm assuming it might be shown. I don't know. One day in the future.
Yes. Yes, I do. I share all of my podcast episodes. So yes, you'll be able to find, you'll be able to message us there. And that's at folkloringlife.com.
And we shall see you again end of next month when we will have a new topic, which we have yet to decide upon.
Bye, everyone.